We will now interrupt your regularly scheduled programming for this Good Old Blades micro podcast.
I figured it's about time to take a slight pause from normal micro podcast programming and to talk a little bit more about what I've been thinking about since I've created the podcast and kind of the trajectory of things. So I've kind of been out a little bit here and there because of gallbladder surgery, of all things. I've been suffering from it for probably several years, in many years actually, and I finally got the surgery to get everything out, and so I'm feeling a lot better. So all of the content that you're listening to now is up to date after this, several episodes of kind of being out. Other than the fact that I try to front load enough of my weekly episodes to make sure that that I don't lose the momentum that I have on weekly publishing. So podcasts, I try to focus on those. I think I've missed one, and it was when Chris Crawford left the show. And then, micro podcasts, it's kind of like it's been up to my health. I've been sick several times, and it's hard to record things and get things published when you're sick. So, if you'll forgive me on that, I think we'll be good to go. But as time has progressed and the podcast has kind of gotten a little bit more established in what I'm trying to do with it, other than this like really broad idea, it really comes down to this. The knife industry as a whole confounds me. It is so confusing. It's confusing because, not everybody makes knives the same way. Not everybody uses the same tooling. Blade steel and everything is subjective as all get out. And it's, whether you sell a knife or whether you don't sell a knife, whether you're a big name and can sell knives or not, like all of these things, they're factors that just, it's not like a normal business. It's not like a normal craft where you do good work, it's supply and demand, it's solving a problem, and you sell, right? There are so many nuances to knife making that honestly, I just want to talk to other people and get an idea of what these individual stories are around success, around people, and their history and their trajectory with knives. And just kind of figure it out as I go along, right? The sum total of the podcast, whenever it eventually ends, and I have no idea when that's going to be, but hopefully not anytime soon, will be that you take the sum total of just a ton of craftsmen, a ton of collectors, a ton of people on the periphery, whatever, dealers, I don't know, like everybody who's involved with knives in some way, shape, or form, I want to get to talk to, and I want to try to figure this thing out for myself. And if you as a listener can be a fly on the wall and kind of walk through that with me, that's really what I want. And the early concept of the Good Old Blades podcast really came from the fact that in me asking questions of old time knife makers and friends and things like that about knives, I'd have these phone calls where maybe we'd sit and talk for 30 minutes, and it would be simple, hey, I have a few questions or whatever. And sometimes it'd be I'd sit on a phone call or whatever, or email or chat with somebody on social media, and we'd have hour-long conversations about just like all sorts of different things. And I was like, man, like I'm asking these questions, and I'm sure a million other people probably ask these questions too. Why don't I take that experience that I have in me asking a bunch of stupid questions or being inquisitive about things and allow a listener to be that fly on the wall that can absorb that and use it as a vocal or auditory learning system to apply it to what they think, right? And so, my opinion is just my opinion, and I want to contextualize that with like, don't trust me 100%. I come from a very pragmatic, a very straightforward, straight, talking type of personality, where I don't have a problem admitting that I don't know something, and I want to find out about things, and I see it kind of like I say it like I see it. I guess you consider me a realist in some ways. But there's a side of me, there's the boyish side that is a diehard romantic and optimist. And it's like, you can do anything. Like my life story is like, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. I've accomplished a lot of things out of a really, like if you could tell my fortune when I was 10 years old or whatever, you'd say that my life story was not going to be very great. But honestly, I've been so blessed. A lot of that has to do, honestly, with not taking no for an answer and being able to like look at the world and try to seek answers and find out what the truth is, or at least what the most logical sense of the truth is. So, I also at the same time kind of experienced this idea when getting into the guild and everything, where it's like all of these knife makers that I'm talking to in 20 years. I don't know how many of them are going to be around. They're old timers. They're like in their 60s and 70s. And, life expectancy is not that high. And I was like, all this knowledge, is going to evaporate. And whatever it is from these guys is the sum total of what's recorded. And so, like for me, it's like I want to unpack the knife industry. I want to record and document famous knife makers and people of success, so that way we have that as an example to fall back on. And I want to do it all in audio. And so that's kind of it. Everything that I am doing in the podcast is to try to push for a better experience for you guys to listen to, where you can get good information and form the idea of how you want to fit inside of the knife industry, because you see everybody else's example and you can kind of navigate that. Kind of with that being said, I'm working towards trying to true up some of the interview process and everything. I take some examples from like Joe Rogan. Like his podcast is real popular. He's been doing it a long time now. And for whatever you think of Joe Rogan and whether he's a meathead at times or whatever, I love his inquisitive nature. I don't really care about other people's opinions too much about Joe Rogan, because when he gets people on his podcast, he gets them to talk. And he gets them to get outside of their comfort zone and really just be who they are and represent that in video and audio. And I felt that that's so great, because there are so many people that he brings on that I just would never think of. They're not in my purview. And it opens up so many different disciplines that I'm interested in. And people talk in a way that just expands my consciousness and the way that I think about things. And his interview style is really just, very laid back. It's very genuine and candid. And what I would like to do is try to build some structure. And with lack of experience, because I haven't been podcasting an exceptional amount of time, I want to build some structure around being able to provide really great interviews to you guys, and also capture the same elements of fascination with my guests that I'm interested in, and hopefully we meet somewhere in the middle with you listening to it and actually, getting something out of it. So my goals are to just keep on keeping on, to focus on content and focus on quality of content. And I think it goes without saying that I've had a lot of really great guests on. I think I could always do better at finding ways to interview them where it's not just prescriptive. You're like, he's just going to ask these questions. That the questions happen organically, and what draws you into the experience is really just what happens. Each time should be an adventure for all of us. And if I can find some way to be more mature and structure things a little bit better to allow for that to happen, that's really what I want. Like, it's like the greatest hammer-ins are structured in that they have demonstrations and education and some prescription to how they're supposed to go. But what you learn in those is a result of that structure, not the structure itself. That's kind of the same thing. the takeaway should be something fabulous out of something that just has a little bit of programming or structure to it. And so I hope that that is evident in where I'm going. It'll be a completely different podcast, a more mature podcast as time goes on. And every day I'm really thinking a lot about how I can change things and become better at what I do to make it a valuable use of your time to listen to it. So I hope so far it is. And I really appreciate the feedback. There is a link, if you go to the goodoldbladespodcast.com's website, then you will see a feedback form. And I really appreciate feedback. I want to know things that I can do better. I want to know things that I'm excelling at. And I want to know things that, guests and things that you might want to see on, because I have my purview. Like I want to be able to talk to a lot of different people. But there might be something like some person that does something so completely different, but in the context of knives that I have no idea about. And I really rely on you guys to give me some good feedback so that way I can get them on and talk to them and just research them myself. I think that those things are important. So give me feedback if you can. I welcome it, and I will continue to roll with what I'm doing and apply myself and to try to exalt my guests. And I hope that through this experience, we just learn something, and I can build a long-lasting podcast that really just stands the test of time of being something that is worth listening to. I really appreciate everybody listening in and downloading the podcast regularly. The listening stats and things are something I pay attention to, and it's important to me to make sure that I'm getting broad exposure on the show. I pay for everything 100% with my own funds, so I have the autonomy to kind of do exactly what I want to. But at the same time, that the feedback and the listenership and everything spurs me on to keep doing it, because it's not an inexpensive process. Not only does it take an exceptional amount of my time, but it takes guests' time, and it costs money and resources to be able to, edit things with software, to record things initially, to host the stuff, and all that's done affiliate or advertisement free, so that way I can keep everything as open as I can. So the more that you help me and kind of stimulate me and spur me on to do these things, the more motivated I am to just try to continue making it better. It's the relationship that you, the listener, and I have. It's where I really do need to have some level of validation that it's something that is worthwhile. And that helps me to make improvements and make investments in changing things to make them better. Otherwise, I'm still going to do it as long as I do it. But, there's a symbiosis between the listener, you, and me. And it's that I think that all things fair and equal, there are a lot of things that we wouldn't do in life if it didn't seem like it was worth it. But when people rely on you or people enjoy what you do, it spurs you on to do things and push you outside of your comfort zone and get you out of bed each morning. With that context, just, keep listening. Give me feedback if you can. Like and subscribe to the podcast on the podcast social media, like on Instagram and Facebook. And if you can, on your individual listeners, go ahead and rate them as well, because those ratings help me in getting better positions in the various podcast players. And so the more that you can help me out with those type of things, if you enjoy the show and everything, the easier it is to get more people to listen to it. So thanks again for all of your time. When you invest it with me, it does mean a lot. I see it every day, and I really do appreciate it. So I hope this helps. I hope the podcast helps, and God bless y'all, and we'll talk soon.